Gloria Hassall Show. So today we'll be continuing our discussion on polygamy and its effects on the family. We will be comparing the West and Africa, and we'll also talk about the effects on the child. So this program is sponsored by SunnyTV, Glandis Essentials, the Gloria Hassall Foundation, and Kane Pharmacy. I've got my lovely guest Dave Newell, who we will be having our chats and conversations with. He'll be giving us a wealth of knowledge on what he knows, and we'll just be sharing. So join me and let's have a lovely chat. So we're gonna talk about creating awareness on polygamy and its effects on children. So remember the Cinderella story where Cinderella was with the stepmom, and the stepmom was hating on Cinderella, and her prince had to come and whisk her away. That's usually what happens in these stepmom polygamous family backgrounds. It's always like in the African setup, it's like 90% the stepmom is going to be not treat the child right, the stepchild right. I think in the West it's different. Like the Western women tend to be kinder, and to the stepchildren they tend to raise them like their own, but in the African background it's not the same.
Some do.
I know some as well. I have seen stories where stepmoms have even killed the stepkids. Yeah. Even in the West, I mean.
Yeah.
So it does happen, but what I'm trying to say, I think the majority of them are kind to the kids.
Oh yes, they are. The majority are. Yes.
Yeah, but in Africa, the majority aren't kind. So that's where I'm coming from.
Usually in this country, you probably find, say, if a husband remarries.
Yeah.
It's his children.
Yeah.
Who go against the stepmother.
Okay.
They can't get on with her.
Okay. In Africa, you could get that, but I think the kids are more vulnerable when they're young.
Yeah.
I think that's where my focus is. I mean, if the child is an adult and they've lived their life, they can probably choose not to get on with their stepmom and do whatever. But I think where the challenge is where these kids are young and they have to look up to their stepmom to raise them. That's where the problem comes in. This is where the stepmom gets that. And thing is, this stepmom, whether she had kids or she has kids with this man or wants to have kids with this man, they always tend to prioritize their kids over this other child, and that child always suffers. I mean, honestly, from the stories I've heard, they always suffer. You know, it's never the same. So basically, I'm just going to talk a little bit about polygamy, and from research and also from my personal experience. I'm going to be putting my personal experience as well because I come from a polygamous background. So I have lived with stepmoms and have siblings and all of that. And I'm having this discussion just to create awareness, you know. That's all this is about, you know. So these polygamous family setups in Africa, you know, from my personal experience, there tends to be a lot of hate and rivalry between the stepmom, stepchildren, and then the children themselves, the different sets of children with different moms. Because it's usually the one dad, and then you've got the different sets of children with different women. So these kids as well, there's a lot of rivalry and competition. And competition is good, but it's that kind of unhealthy competition where that set don't want that set to do well, that set don't want that set to do well, sort of thing, which I think is negative. I think competition should be to support each other, you know, not to like, you know, I want you to go down so I can rise. That to me is negative competition. You do get a lot of that sort of negative competition in these kind of family setups, you know. So the women also tend to focus on their kids and want their kids to do better than the other kids. They tend to make the other kids look bad before the man. I have been set up like living with stepmoms. I'm just gonna be open, like I'm not my goal is not to create offense, but I'm just gonna be very brutally honest because people need to know. People who do not know should know. And if you come from a monogamous home, you should be grateful to God, and you should really appreciate your parents for sticking it out for you to enjoy that kind of peace and harmony in the home, because I never had that, and I have been set up by stepmoms, and I wasn't a child, I was an adult, and I'm thinking to myself, as an adult, I'm getting set up to look bad, and then I'm thinking to myself, how about children? Like, I'm an adult really, so I can look after myself, but I was thinking to myself, I'm getting treated this way as an adult. Can you imagine what children have to go through, or what children have to deal with? So it is quite unpleasant, you know. So in this scenario, I was set up to make it look like, you know, there was something wrong with me. But I was an adult, so I had that understanding that I was being set up, you know. So this is how far these stepmoms will go to get whatever their agenda is with this man in the marriage, you know. And it's at the expense of the child suffering here. So the goal is just to try and draw the attention of the man on their children, and just let their children look like angels and focused, and all the other kids look like waywards, literally. So they're gonna like complain about the other kids, like they're lazy and they're dirty, they're arrogant, they're rude, and you know, make their kids look like they're hardworking, they're polite and things like that, just to make the other child look like, you know, they aren't really focused in life. And one thing I also noticed living with stepmoms, like another observation I made, when my dad was around, they would act really nice. Like, they would go out of their way to make it look like they've got a really good relationship with me when they haven't. And there were the odd times where I'd get a phone call and it's like, hey, you okay? Maybe I was out late and I'll get the odd phone call, hey, you okay? Where are you? I'm like, oh, when are you coming home? I'm like, you know, I won't be long. And then as soon as the phone drops, I'm like, I bet my she's with my dad. So I get home and I'm like, was she with my dad? They're like, yeah. So literally, she's trying to make it look like she cares, but really she don't. She's just doing it to make it look, to let my dad think that she cares, but I know she doesn't, because you hear stories, people would come up to me and say things to me that she would say in my absence, and then I had that to my advantage, and these were nice things, these were really horrible things. So then they say all these things when you're not there, and then I had that privilege of being informed, and then they come back and act like they care, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, like, if I hadn't known all of that, I would actually fall for that, like, you know. So there's a lot of pretense, like, you know, and this honestly usually happens in these African polygamous relationships. It's almost like a game, and naturally I'm not a game player. I don't believe in playing games. I believe in like focusing on yourself and doing what you need to do, but I don't really believe in playing games.
Also, you're on about that, like a mother looking after her children.
Yeah. In
this country, sometimes you get rivalry between siblings.
Yeah.
The one will try and make the other look bad.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, because I have been told that even in monogamous homes, you do get that kind of rivalry.
Oh, you can do, yes.
Yeah, I have heard, but to be honest, it probably definitely happens in monogamous homes, but I think with the polygamous homes, it takes it up a notch a bit further.
It does sound like it's worse, I must admit.
Yeah. So it might happen in monogamous home, but I think with the polygamous home, it takes it up a notch, like in downside. Yeah, so yeah, you know. Yeah, so
Yes, it doesn't sound very nice.
No, it isn't nice at all. And I would always say to myself, I'm an adult and this is going on. I was always thinking, what if I was a child? That's all I kept thinking. I would always say to myself, this is happening to me as an adult. What about children? That's all I would think about. You know, and like I'm not gonna go too much detail because it's very, very nasty. If I should go into detail, you'd be shocked. So I'm just gonna try and polish it up But even that, you're going to see how bad it is. And I'm quite grateful to God I had that because I learned a lot. It also helped me to understand my background. It helped me to understand where I'm coming from, because I came to uni when I was 18. And I had no idea what it was like, my family was like. So going back home and living with these stepmoms and seeing what really goes on gave me a better understanding of the sort of family I come from. And I'm very grateful to God I had that privilege, because I keep saying to myself I would have been very naive if I hadn't had that experience dealing with all of these people, if you know what I mean. So for me, it's a blessing in disguise. And as well, I feel like it's helped me to get a better understanding of the sort of family I come from. Because let's face it, if I hadn't found out, I would have lived the rest of my life thinking, now it's put me in a better position to deal with people. If, I'm not like naive, I sort of know who and how to deal with everyone, literally. But if I hadn't had this experience, I would have just been very naive and just like really open and just, you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like it's put me in a better position, and I'm grateful to God for that. Yeah. So let's talk about what happens to these children in these monogamous homes. So they are maltreated, they are starved, they are not looked after properly. It's always, they've always done something wrong. It's just like not being treated well. And sometimes I feel like the man may be oblivious as well. Because, like I was saying to you, that this stepmom would literally ring me when my dad was around to make it look like she cares when she don't. So when she's doing it, imagine if I was a child, if she was doing it, she would only do it when my dad is not around. So my dad will come and everything is perfect, but as soon as he's gone, then it's a different story. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times the men may be oblivious as well. They have no idea what's going on. And clearly these kids are threatened not to say anything. So it's hard for a child in that situation. It's really, really hard. And I think I want us to talk about this just to create awareness with some of the men, that if you're going to go for another woman, you should know that these are the things that you're taking your child through, and that child never asked to be born. You brought this child into this world, and you are responsible for this child. And there shouldn't be any level of selfishness in it. You should actually look out for this child, So this is all we have for you today. We will continue our discussion next week. This program is sponsored by SunnyTV, Gladys Essentials, Kane Pharmacy, and the Gloria Hassall Foundation. You look after yourself. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Gloria Hassall Show comes your way every Saturday, 7 p.m. on SunnyTV, with your host, Gloria Hassall, to break down the importance of addressing and discussing issues like current affairs, marriage, culture, economy, health, wealth, and education on Gloria Hassall Show, 7 p.m. every Saturday on SunnyTV.